All right, so this feels a little weird. It shouldn't. The weird is gonna pass. Hashem, help me with this, because what do I need help with? Now that I just feel a little. I'm just trying to like my mind feels a little bit scattered. I need you to help me kind of just focus on. All right, so Mrs. Kim had suggested that I make a video based on what I had written last night about the Hesed of Netzach. Which got pretty intense. Fighting for what we believe in, standing up for what we believe in, what are we willing to die for? But where I sensed that the area of interest mainly lied in was the personal perspective of that. So there was a point where I didn't give a shit about anything. How do we define that? I didn't give a shit about you. I wanted to kill you. I wanted to go down in history. At 12 years old is where I made a lot of life choices at that point. And before I died, I wanted to go down and I wanted to be the person, the man, to go down in history, to be the one that killed God, right? Because I hated you that much. I hated you. Why did I hate you? Well, why didn't I? What reason did you not give me to? Because I'm convinced. I mean, we can put it up for debate if you like, but I was under the impression, and I still am, to a degree. I mean, you and I, we have a much better relationship than we did back then, but I thought I was under the impression that the suffering that you were putting me through was for your own amusement. I thought that you were just laughing at me. I didn't know back then that the difficulty of my life was actually supposed to be preparing me for something. I was too young. I didn't know that shit. I just thought you were a sick, twisted, demented psychopath. And that you created me for the sole purpose of your own sick, perverted entertainment. That's what I thought. Do I still feel that way? No, obviously not. I can see more clearly now than I could back then, which is why I give you my all. I put everything into you, but it wasn't always like that, and that's kind of where we were trying to get at. Because especially in my childhood years, into my teens, into my young adult, I didn't give a shit about anything or anybody. And to a degree, there's a part of me, and I was actually having this conversation last night, it's like, I don't give a shit about anything now, but not in a negative way. I know what to give a shit about, and I know what not to give a shit about. So today when I say I don't give a shit, it's that I just don't give a shit about the shit that I don't need to give a shit about. I didn't have any meaning. I couldn't find meaning. And that was a big thing. Like, why did, if I had a clear idea of what it was that my life was preparing me for, I would have had a completely different perspective on it than I did. If I knew that there was some bigger purpose. And granted, I know, and I was writing this last night, is there was always that little fantasy in the back of my head that there really was some purpose for my life, but the extent of it, the level of awesome that I would see in these fantasies was too great. It was too good to be true, and I couldn't believe it. There was no reason to, especially when I looked around and saw the world around me and went, that's not how things work. This is just my mind playing tricks on me. Today's a completely different fucking story. Today I could scroll through the events of my life with ease, with little trouble. There's not a portion in my past that I can look back on and it's too shameful or it's too ugly or it's too this or too that, too negative, that I can't look at it. And even if those things come up, because there might be something I'm not thinking of too, so. But, you know, this weekend when I was writing, when I was writing for the Lunar Sabbath, a couple experiences from the past came up that were like really cringy and like, fuck. I didn't want to look at it. But then you came through and you're like, no, look at it. Look at it. Because what I want you to do moving forward is anytime that you have that there's like a hard memory to look at, a bad experience that you don't want to look at, just remember, I'm the one who did it. I put you in that position. So even if you feel bad that you did something or that you didn't do something, that's because I put you in the position to do or not do that thing that you did or didn't do. See, but that's not easy for everybody because not everybody has the capability of believing as deeply in you as I do. I think. My experience with people is, even if people say they believe in you, they can believe in you more. I think that when I was younger, and I don't just mean as a kid, but even in my 30s, like when I said I didn't believe in you, I just didn't believe that you were good. I thought you were fucking pure evil. I'm being reminded of that of the great debate that I was having with the atheists in that atheist group. Atheism isn't the lack of belief in God for me, from my perspective. Atheism is just saying, fuck you. Fuck you, I hate you. I'm going to dedicate my life to rebelling against you. And that's what I did. My family, I hated my family. I hated my life choices. Oh my God, I hated my life choices so much. I hated my job, I hated my wife, I hated my son. Because I resented them, because I was supposed to kill myself. That's what was supposed to happen. That's what I wanted. So badly. I mean, we could debate over whether I was depressed, and I'm not saying I wasn't, I was, but the depression was just, I don't want to live in this shitty world. In this shitty world with shitty people, there's nothing worth actually living for. So I might as well die for something, which is fuck you. Fuck you and fuck everybody. But you know what's fucked up is when I finally had the opportunity to kill myself, twice. What's the right way to put it? That's how I knew that you were there. So here's a really cool story. It was October 11th. It was October 11th, 2018. And at this point, we were probably 10 months into my spiritual awakening. Not that I was never a spiritual person, but I just never had any structure to it. I had my own ideas of how things were. But I never had anything to back it up. I just had the fantasy in my head. It was always a fantasy in my head that kept me going. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong so fucking bad. I wanted to be wrong about everything. But at that point, on that day, is when I finally had enough. They just put me out of my fucking misery. It was only a few weeks. I'd say it was probably only a couple weeks after the last time I saw my son. Which was the last time I saw him. I left my house to go live with my grandmother. I had a home. But after my wife at the time, after she said she wasn't coming back for the third time, that's when I was like, okay, done. So I had a friend of mine move in who was supposed to rent my condo from me. So I had her and her kids move in. They were supposed to pay me, but I was still living there. The original idea was they were going to sleep in the bedrooms and I was going to sleep on the couch, but I ended up sleeping in the bedroom and they slept on the couches. Within 2 weeks, I got so sick and tired of them that I just left them there. And one morning I woke up, I called an Uber that had me bring me to my grandmother's house that was right down the street. And I slept on this little ass couch where I had to fucking bend my knees just so I could fit. And at the time, I mean, listen, again, going back and looking at it from the perspective that I have right now, I understand why that was a good thing. Why that needed to happen. But I think I was there for maybe 2 weeks before everything just started to weigh on me so badly. I couldn't understand all the weird things that were happening, all the synchronistic experiences, all the mystical stuff that was going on. Plus, I was also working with a lot of demons at the time, too. I was intentionally working with Solomon's demons. because they understood me. I used to read tarot cards. I used to read oracle cards for people. The difference. And I had this one particular deck. It was called the Demon Tarot. And I used to read them for other people, but I also used to read them for myself too. Because they were helping me see like the demons inside of me. And at that point in my life, I had already been trying to do the inner work. That's when I was 37. So I started to do the inner work, but it wasn't resonating with anybody around me. My wife at the time didn't like it. My family didn't like what I was doing, but I finally came to a point in 2017, in October 2017, I didn't drink for 2 months, which was the longest I went sober. I was 37 at the time. That 2 months sober was the longest sober stretch that I had ever had since I was 15. And just one day it clicked, and I looked around my house. I'm like, what the fuck? The fuck did I do? I really fucked up. I fucked up really bad. My relationship with my wife is fucking horrendous. My relationship with my son's even worse. My relationship with myself, God. My job, like what the fuck happened to me? What the hell what did I let happen? And then it was at that point where I recognized, like, it's time, I have to do something. I have to do something, and I have to not give a fuck about the consequences. You know, and there was a dude that I used to watch on YouTube called Infinite Waters. And I remember he gave this advice, and I loved it so much because even during my days when I was drinking, when I was drinking a lot, like, I just didn't give a fuck. In the bad way. I didn't give a fuck about anything, especially myself. I would say that for 37 years, it was a 37-year-long death wish where I was too scared to kill myself, but I would put myself into situations where it wasn't impossible that I wasn't going to make it out alive because I didn't want to. But the advice that he gave was ruin your reputation. Fuck it. Basically. Who gives a shit what people think about you? Just do. And it was around that time where I decided to start listening to the voice in my head. The one voice throughout my life, the one voice that I always thought was playing tricks on me was the one voice that was actually trying to encourage me. You're better than this. You can do great things with your life. Not even you can. You are going to do great things with your life. What the fuck are you talking about? My life is a shit show. I'm not doing nothing great with this. Just trust me. All right. But fast forwarding back to that day on October 11th, 2018, I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to church. I was going to a Catholic church that was right by my grandmother's. It was a church that she used to work for, but she was one of the money counters. But she was too old. She couldn't go anymore. And being that I was on this spiritual pursuit, I thought, maybe I'll bump into somebody who'll have the answers I'm looking for. Like, what the fuck is happening to me? Why am I seeing things that nobody else can see? Why am I feeling things that nobody else can feel? Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Or what's right with me? I just need somebody to fucking tell me something. But even talking to the priest really couldn't even give me an answer. Just keep writing. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. How the fuck do you know? So then on that day, there's a bridge down the street from my grandmother. And I said, I'm going to jump off this bridge today. Fuck it. I have to go refill her medication. So the plan was, I had no money at this point either. I had to take money from her. I'm going to use her bank card. I'm going to get a bottle of booze, a pack of cigarettes, because I need a goddamn cigarette. And then after I'm sure that she's got all of her shit, I'm going to go get drunk. And then I'm going to jump off the bridge, because I know I can't do it without booze in my system. How you doing? So when I left the house, when I left the apartment, I looked up and I said, I know you remember what I said. If my life is so important and I'm really supposed to stay alive, then I want, when I get to that fucking store, I want to see Sadat. And if he's not there, I'm going to go get the alcohol and I'm going to drink and then I'm going to jump off the fucking bridge. Sadat was a childhood friend of mine that I knew lived in the general vicinity. And the last time I had bumped into this guy was a few months prior at the drugstore that I was going to walk to. Again, I knew that he lived in the general vicinity, but for some reason that was the first thing that came to my mind was, if I don't see him when I go to that store, that's the only thing that will stop me. And you know, it's so fucked up. As soon as I fucking it took me about 15 minutes to get there. And as soon as I put my fucking foot into the parking lot, I saw him get out of a car. It was the best and worst day of my life. Best in that I don't have to kill myself, because I really didn't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. I love my life. I love myself. Which is where all the suicidal tendencies originate from, is I love myself too much to continue with this bullshit. Emotional pain, mental pain, spiritual pain for that matter. I have no reason to live. There's no reason. You remind me of Job. You remind me of Job. There's this misconception with the story of Job. And I think the people that talk about Job never actually read the book of Job. Because if you read the book of Job, then you know that when most people say that the book of Job consists of a man who had everything stripped away from him and he never gave up on God, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. The book of Job is 40 chapters long. 37 of those chapters is Job not giving up on himself. While he had four guys trying to gaslight him to convince him that he was getting what he deserved. You're a piece of shit, Job. You're a fucking sinner, Job. What did you do, Job? And Job's taking it. He's not cutting them off. He's not fighting with them. Once they say their piece, he goes, I'm the victim here. God's mistreating me. He literally says, and this is what I'm saying, this has nothing to do with Job staying true to God, because Job even said, I'm being treated unfairly. You should be feeling sorry for me. I didn't do anything to deserve this. No, you're a fucking liar, Job. If you didn't deserve this, then it wouldn't be happening. And it's not until the very end that you come down and tell Job straight the fuck up. You're not the one who put the stars in the sky. You weren't there when I separated the waters. You only see what you want to see. You can't see the bigger picture. And then that's where Job settles down. That's where Job settles down. I'm sorry. I spoke without understanding the full story, without understanding the full picture. When Job was making his case back to God, what he was saying was, I can't see what you can see. I didn't take into consideration that there's a bigger picture, that the bigger picture of my life is actually just a small puzzle piece too. And when Job finally comes to that realization that he was wrong, that he wasn't being mistreated, that's when all the rewards started falling on him. But again, it has nothing to do with staying true to God. God doesn't give a shit if you stay true to him. He wanted to make sure that Job was going to stay true to himself, or if he was going to fall for the bullshit that these guys were trying to toss on him. And anyone who says that Job is about, I get real heated about this. Anyone who says that the book of Job is about Job staying true to God, go read the book and then tell me the same thing. Tell me the same story. Because those same people, I've never heard anyone talk about the fact that Job is getting gaslit for 7/8 of the book. See, now with me though, I didn't necessarily think that you were punishing me. I saw it as me punishing myself. I saw myself as a fuck up. Yeah, no, I deserve this. This fucking sucks, and I hate it. I regret everything. My brain is bored. My soul is bored. And even with my sons, I tried to be a parent, but I was a terrible parent. Because instead of being an encouraging parent, a nurturing parent, I see characteristics of myself being reflected back at me through my son, and I get on his ass. I get on his ass just before I'm about to go and do the thing that I saw him doing that got me to get on his case, which was just playing video games and just zoning out. Because I didn't want him to grow up to be like me, regretting his life. So why did you have him? Thank you. When I was living with his mother, we were doing a lot of drinking and drugging. And one particular night, after a lot of rum, I had a vision. If I remember correctly, we were making out on the couch. I'm not going to get into the full details, but I had a vision that came to me. And the vision I saw was a flash forward into the future, my future, a potential future. And in that future, she was dead. She died of an overdose, and it was my fault. It was my fault in the sense that because I'm on this death wish mission. I used to stuff myself with drugs and alcohol just to see if I would live in the morning. And I would always wake up. Down a half a bottle of rum, pop a couple painkillers, do an eighth of coke. How the hell am I waking up? Why do I keep waking up? Why can't I just die? And I think at that point, I was kind of convinced. I was convinced that you weren't going to let me die because you wanted me just to suffer. And it was working. But what I had seen was on one of my crazy adventures, because she's attached to me like a fucking tick. Because of my choices and her trying to keep up with me, and it ends up killing her. And as soon as I saw that, I saw a vision of a child, and I said, you know what? Why don't we have a kid? Why don't we have a baby? This way we can kind of clean up our acts. We'll grow up. This will make us grow up. And so we did, and it worked. Now, the other thing going through my mind at that time was, I can't love this woman the way that she wants me to love her. I just can't. She wanted to be together forever and die in the same coffin. No. I don't like being around people in the first place. I'd rather die alone, miserable. And I'd like to do it with a lot of drugs. I want to die in a way that makes Jesus Christ cringe. So I thought, this child that I'm going to give her, I was sure about it. There wasn't any kind of doubt. I knew she was going to get pregnant. This child is going to love her the way that I can't. And this way she can have a piece of me that lives with her forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. This way when he turns 18, I can finally get rid of her and go off on my own and just do whatever the fuck. Now, coincidentally, he's going to be 18 this year. So in a sense, in a mystical, poetic sense, from a perspective, we could say this is the year where I'm finally free. I mean, but you haven't seen them in 6 years. I know, but there's still a connection there. There's a connection that I can't necessarily let go of, because I was always very clear. Once he's 18, then I'm going to leave. I'm only staying with you until he's 18. I try to be that when I was saying earlier that I don't necessarily give a shit about anything. Back then, when I really didn't give a fuck, I wasn't shy about my feelings. I remember after the baby was born, her family would say, hey, when are you guys going to get married? And I would say, we're not getting married. I'm not marrying her. I don't want to marry her. I don't ever want to be married. I used to tell her too, go get a boyfriend. Go get a boyfriend, because I don't want you. And then when she would, that's when it would kick in. I'd go, whoa. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it the way that I meant it. What am I thinking? Well, there's the part of me that's saying, you're not making any sense. You're just rambling. But now I hear you saying, well, if I hear you saying, if you weren't doing it exactly the way that you were supposed to be doing it, then you wouldn't be doing it. All right. That's one of the benefits of having such a deep relationship with God has. Having that open dialogue like that, it took a long time to develop it. And even over the course of the years, I didn't know exactly where the voice was coming from. I didn't want to I don't know if it's that I didn't want to believe that it was you. I'm that big of a narcissist where I thought I was God for a little bit. I thought I was God in physical form. For a time, during these past 7 years. And the reason for that is just because of all of the mystical and magical and synchronistic and impossible experiences that I was having that only I could perceive. That's why I like to bring this camera around with me when I'm alone, because that's the only time when, but it's not the only time, but it's the only time I can be by myself and have somebody with me at the same time to see what I'm talking about. For posterity. So that's why, especially in these last couple weeks when I've been doing these videos, it's just you and me. I just talk directly to you because I trust that you're going to put words in my mouth that can only come from you. Because I do believe that I'm a prophet. I believe that I'm my own prophet. But that's the thing. I ain't nobody else's prophet. I know I'm the Messiah, but I'm my Messiah. Which makes a big difference. My shit's my own shit. My relationship with you is just my relationship with you. And I think what I'm hearing, the words that I see in my head is that anyone can do this. I'm nothing special. The hard part is getting over it's too good to be true. That's the part of it that I always had the biggest trouble with accepting and even wrapping my head around. Yeah, but if this was true, then why that? Then why? I don't understand. Well, just think about Joseph. How the hell did someone, and you know, and this is the thing, of all the fucking religions, Jews, Christians, Muslims, I'm talking about the religions themselves. Why is Joseph the one that's always kind of like swept under the rug? Everybody wants to, I mean, I'll say my Jewish brothers and sisters, we're the ones who give Joseph the most credit, but I mean, if I would say that Joseph is more important than Jesus. He's more important than Jesus because he's the only one who really teaches you how to forgive. Yeah, Rabbi Jesus, he was praying for the men that were persecuting him. But Joseph was but those men weren't necessarily his relatives. The people that fuck us the most are the people that we're closest to. And Joseph is the one who teaches us that the people closest to us who fuck us over the worst, those are the people that we need to be able to forgive. Because whether we want to believe it or not, if the shoe was on the other foot, we would have done something worse. And Joseph is the only person in the entirety of all the Bibles that has the I was going to say the foresight, but the hindsight necessary to recognize how all of the worst things that ever happened to him, because his life was just one trauma after another. He saw his mother die. His brothers hated him. It's in the Bible. They hated him. He got the shit kicked out of him by his own brothers, then thrown into a pit for God knows how long. Then sold to slavers. Nobody knows what happened to him. We don't know if he got any beatings. We don't know. All we know is eventually he got sold off as a slave. God forbid. And then even in the time as a slave, he's got his master's wife trying to sleep with him. Which, from a man perspective, when you have a woman throwing herself on you like that, the centeredness, his level of restraint is unlike that. It's superhuman. And I can recognize why people why people don't even buy into the Bible and a lot of the stories that are in there, because it's like, who the hell are these guys? These guys don't exist. Well, exactly, that's the point. They're that rare. They're like a fucking diamond in the rough. I curse a lot, but it's for emphasis. This is a guy, and then he spent I think it's about 10 years in jail. It took almost 20 years before he was reunited with his brothers. 20 years of being a slave and a prisoner. All because you have a gift. I refuse to believe that Joseph was so pious that he never saw himself as the victim. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that he never wanted revenge. I believe that when he was toying with his brothers and had them go back to retrieve Benjamin, and when he put Naphtali in jail, that there was that part of him that was, okay. He had the power to do it, but he also had the restraint to not exercise it. And then even goes so far as that once he finally, even after Jacob died, and he had no one to impress except for God, and they came groveling back at him. Don't make us slaves, don't make us slaves. Hey, I'm not a replacement for God. I'm not going to make you a slave, but that doesn't mean God's not going to. But my point. Whenever I invoke Joseph, I go there. Joseph's a challenge for me because I can relate to his life in a way that he is you say spirit guide, godfather, soul twin. Sometimes I feel like you made my life exactly the way that it is, so I can have the Joseph experience. which is one of my favorite experiences. I love the Joseph experience because it and going back to one of the earlier Omer accounts, where were we? I think it was the Malkut of Tiferet. Compassion from a dignified perspective. Do you look down on those people that you have compassion for? I do. Oh my God, do I? Do I look down on people? Oh my God. My Lord. You know me better than I know me. And you know how much I love to look down on people that I think deserve it. Especially when it comes to my 12 brothers, my 10 brothers. Because as much as I would like to make them into my slaves, I know that given the opportunity, I'd like to believe that given the opportunity, I would take the Joseph path. I believe it. I believe I can do it. And I believe that the work that we have done, the inner work that we have done over these years is the reason for that. Without you, I wouldn't be able to do it. Without you, I would be a tyrant. I would be a tyrant. When I think about my relationship with my family now, even my mother, whom I love, like I love myself, with my brother, with her husband, I believe that if not for you, I would be the monster of their nightmares. And the same thing with my ex-wife and my son, that if not for your guidance, that when I recognize the power that I have as an individual, if I didn't have you to guide me, I know that I would use it for evil. I would use it for the most horrible things. And I wouldn't stop until the entire universe itself was burnt to ash. Thank you. I love you too. That's not, you know, how do I put it? Talking about, you remind me of the fear of God, right? What does that mean? The fear of you, for me at least, I think everyone's going to see it a little bit differently, is the fear that you're gaslighting me, the fear that you're catfishing me, the fear that you're fucking with me. That's what I fear most. I fear that this sense of tranquility, not just the sense of tranquility that I see, but even taking into consideration like my daily studies and all of that inner work that I'm doing, like my fear is that you're setting me up to get punked. You're setting me up to look like a fucking idiot. And that one day I'm gonna need you and you're not gonna be there. And the mob is just gonna point and stare and laugh. Shame! 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 Shame on you! Ugh. Tar and feather me. That's what I fear most. I basically fear, I'm afraid that you're leading me down the same path that Jesus went, and that ultimately I'm gonna just be the world's pinata. Or not, maybe not even the world's pinata, but just the pinata for all those people that I see myself as a victim of. Which is another one of the challenges, is recognizing that I'm not a victim Everything that anyone has ever done to me, even if it was intentional, everything that has ever been done to me was what you were doing for me. And I'm trying to think of a way. You can help me with this. I'm trying to think of a way to convert that idea, because I know exactly what that means. But what I need you for right now is to help me convert that into something tangible, in the sense that anyone watching this can understand exactly what I'm talking about in their own way. And if they have not personally experienced what I'm talking about for themselves and had that great revelation, that they can go, holy shit, I never even thought about it like that before. What you're saying to me is, how do you know that didn't already happen? That's a good point. Trust me, that if that was gonna happen, it would have happened already. Okay? I trust you. So feel free to just continue. Where do you want to go? Because I went on that Joseph rant, and I know that's where things just kind of got red for a little while. Emotional control, emotional regulations, ego regulation. Because if we're looking at it from, okay, all right, I see that. Tanya, the divine soul wears the tree, the 10 emanations as a garment, but then that's wrapped in the faculties of thought, speech, and action, which is then wrapped in the nefesh, the animal soul, which is then wrapped up in the human body. I might be missing a couple layers, but then if we go back to, if we reverse and go back to the nefesh, the animal soul, the human soul, that has its own tree. That has the Kelapot tree, the Qliphothic tree, which is the, quote, evil twin of the 10 Sephirah of the Tree of Life. The nefesh is the ego. That's the egoic soul. That's the pharaoh soul. I'm just saying the words as they're coming to me. The ego, it's okay to let your ego kind of inflate. That's what it's there for. Being humble and modest doesn't necessarily mean not demonstrating your greatness and hiding it and keeping it to yourself, because that, denying the world around you the greatness that is you, that God bestowed upon you, is a bigger sin than any of the other sins. Because not only are you denying yourself, but you're also denying God by pretending to be smaller than what you really are. Because if He made you to be that small, then you would be that small, and you would know it. You wouldn't be angry about it, you'd be content with it. The ego is only a problem. The ego is only a problem when you don't allow God to serve as the ego regulator. I believe I'm perfect. I believe that I am the next evolutionary leap in human consciousness, human spiritual evolution. I believe that. That's a very narcissistic. I believe that I'm the center of the universe. I'm the center point of creation. That's a very narcissistic, egoic way of looking at it. But at the same time, Rabbi Zalman and Tanya made a really good point that for one to truly be of service of God, it does involve the recognition and acknowledgement that creation was created for the sake of me, for the sake of the servant. And that's another fear. I'm afraid of you taking away that from me. I'm afraid of me fucking up so bad. I'm afraid of offending you so badly that you strip that away from me. So that I feel like a nothing again. But then, thank you. You will never be a nothing to me. I love you. I fucking love you. Because you, my Lord, Supreme Grand Master of the universe, Supreme Grand Master of the Masters. To put it in blunt terms, you stroke my ego in a way that nobody else can. I can't even do it. And then you reward me, by allowing it to happen. But what keeps the ego regulated is that I don't lose sight of the fact that it's you doing it. Where the true narcissistic person will actually pat themselves on the back for creating the universe. The true narcissistic person is the master of their own destiny, which I'm not. You're the master of my destiny. I want you to be. I don't want to be in control of anything. I'm being reminded of Disney's Aladdin. At the end of the movie, the villain, Jafar, he makes his final wish, and his final wish is to be the most powerful being in all of the universe, which means that he wanted to be more powerful. He wanted to be you. He wanted to be God. And for that moment, when you're watching it, from an empathic perspective, you can feel the delicious, just raw power that this man is consuming. But then the divine shackles get slapped on him. And he becomes the new genie. That's why no, I'm not joking. I'm being dead ass serious. It's just, I'm laughing because it's funny hearing the words come out of my mouth, but my Lord, I'm fine with being the second most powerful being in the universe. And I think that's the point. Am I wrong? You're not wrong. Is to be each one of us, I believe that each one of us, it's our obligation to be that second most powerful being in the universe. And then the nice thing about being the second most powerful being in the universe is that everyone can do it. There's no one's competing. Everyone is tied. It's like a race. God always wins the race. Everyone else is tied for second place. Which is remind me of Shabbat. What about Shabbat? Well, the Count of Omer is where we're exploring the 49 gates of the emotional the 49 gates associated with the 49 emotional faculties. The 50th gate The 50th gate is only you can open the door for the 50th gate. And I remember how Rabbi Aaron Raskin, he was explaining it in Letters of Light. That's the 50th gate is like the crown. And only you can bestow that. And that 50th gate is what we're doing on Shabbat. We're humbly accepting the crown of sovereignty from the sovereign of sovereigns. Because ultimately, you know, it's funny, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, why couldn't we just get to this point from the very beginning? Is what's something worth fighting for? And when I'm thinking back of Rabbi Jacobson's work that I've been transcribing for the group, for those posts, there's this recurring theme where you're not being put into the equation at all. It's what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I not doing? There's never a question of why are you making me do what I'm doing? Because though I'm in a mental, emotional, spiritual state where I can take responsibility for my actions, it's not me, it's you. I don't believe in free will like the other Jews do. I went to a church event with my mother, and I was having a conversation with one of the ladies there. And I said to her, I don't believe in free will. And she goes, well, what? What? You're in the minority there. Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. And I'm curious why other rabbis, like why they don't. One, I'm kind of curious where the illusion of free will comes from, because even if we study Torah, Joseph's story, the life and times of Joseph, again, are the perfect example for why there is no free will. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why he's kind of like the totality of his story is so kind of like brushed under the rug, because if we really break it down and dissect it, the only reason, my belief, the only reason that the brothers had the balls to do what they did to Joseph was because his mother wasn't around to protect him. That motherly energy, one of the matriarchs was taken out of the equation. So by rights, Joseph and Benjamin were the only two that didn't have a mother. And I'm sure they had motherly figures, but that's not what I'm talking about. Your aunt, your mother's maids aren't your mother, is essentially what I'm getting at. So there was a power vacuum that allowed them to step in and go, all right, here comes the dreamer. Let's see what we can make about his dreams. Fuck him. What's this, an hour? Had she not died giving birth to Benjamin, who would be the one to who would fill the void of Joseph's absence after he was sold? Like, it's just, the butterfly effect is the way it was explained. The divine butterfly effect. Then why doesn't it just teach in the Torah that nobody has free will? Why is it presented that everybody has a choice to do the right thing or the wrong thing? Help me with that, because I feel the answer. I feel the answer, but I want you to give me the words for it. You want me to do it on my own? And just trust that you're the one telling me what to say? All right. Choice. The illusion of choice. Would you rather have the illusion of choice or not have the illusion of choice? Do you want to be a robot? Do you want to know that you're a robot? Or do you want to just figure out that you're a robot? even if I told you that I'm the Mashiach, right? Even if I told you that I'm the guy, you can't believe me. You can't. Even if I told you free will doesn't exist, you wouldn't believe me. That's not for me to say. That's for him. If you're not willing to look for the answers, and the same reason, well, why doesn't God just come down and show everybody that he's there? What fun would that be? Why go on an Easter egg hunt? Why go on an Easter egg hunt or a scavenger hunt knowing where everything is? Life's supposed to be fun. Life's supposed to be enjoyed. The fact that, and honestly, the fact that there is no free will, and let me expand on that because it isn't so black and white as to say there is no free will. It comes in grades and degrees and variations. Some people have more. I would say that some people have more free will than other people. So, for instance, let's just say that you have a regular 9-to-5 job, right? It's not necessarily a job that you like either. It's a paycheck. Yeah, everyone's met someone like that. I think everyone's been in a position like that before. Well, it's a paycheck. You don't have free will. You have the least amount of free will. Or maybe, thank you. No, you have the most free will. I don't have a choice. The people who say they don't have a choice are the ones who have the most free will. I have to do this. Do you? Well, I have to pay my bills. Do you? If I want to maintain this lifestyle, there you go. So you do have a choice. It's just that you don't like the idea of the opposite. Then what makes you so special that you don't have free will? God, what makes me so special that I don't have free will? This feels like a really on the spot question. I feel like I have to answer that. Well, what do you think? Not everybody has a destiny. Not everyone has a fate. I mean, we're all fated to die, but again, going back to Joseph, was he thrown into the pit? Was he sold into slavery? Did he become the Lord of Egypt because he was thrown into slavery? Or was he thrown into slavery because he already was the Lord of Egypt? His destiny was for this thing. And it was all just a coincidence. One coincidence after another coincidence. Coincidentally, his mother died giving birth to the child that would fill the void in the life of the man who lost his wife, the mother of his favorite son, because of the fact that her absence opened the door for his jealous and vindictive brothers to do what they did. All of just one big fucking coincidence. I mean, that's a way to look at it. I'm not saying it's the wrong way. It's one way to look at it. But someone like me, I don't see it that way. I see the divine intervention through the whole thing. That had to happen, so that would happen, so that would happen, so that would happen. Because in the long run, none of that could have, none of it would have been, none of it needed to happen if the end result wasn't going to be exactly what it was. The ends justify the means. Just like Rabbi asked in last night's self-inquiry. Are you the type of person that believes that the ends justify the means? Yeah. Yeah, because God is the one who crafted the ends to be exactly what it is. And the only way for the ends to be what he needs it to be, not us, what he needs it to be, is for everything that precedes it to be exactly the way that it is. Maybe that's a little bit of an issue that I have with maybe that's a little bit of an issue that I have with some of the other rabbis, is that the narcissism that comes with thinking that I'm in control. I'm in control. You're not in control. You're not in control. I'm not in control. God's in control. God's always in control. The rabbi of the rabbis. I accept. Because to think that you have that much control over your life, how many times have you tried to control something in your life and it doesn't work out? It never works out. Maybe temporarily, but then everything eventually falls apart, and you got to start over from scratch. And then you start blaming God. Then you start blaming everybody else. Or you blame yourself. Or you blame yourself. You still haven't answered the question of why you... I am answering the question. I'm answering it in long form. And the reason I know that I don't have free will it's because I keep detailed notes about my life. I've been documenting my life experiences for the last 7 years. And the deeper that I go within myself, not just exploring and expanding and dissecting my own personal experiences over the last 7 years, I'm taking that same ability to break things down and analyze things, to analyze life, and applying it to the previous 37 years. And then applying it to what I know about my ancestry as well. So once I start putting all of those pieces together, and I start to recognize that same butterfly effect that I see with Joseph is applicable to my own personal experience, then I recognize, all right, I have absolutely no control. And everything that I've ever done, good or bad, is exactly what God needed me to do so that we can have this conversation right now. Because even if we look at the worst things that's ever happened to me, right? I have this I'm going to call it what I want to call it. I have a thing where where I see myself as a young child being molested. Let's say that's the worst. Let's just say for argument's sake that it actually happened. We don't know. But let's just say that it happened. That should be a really traumatic thing. That should really fuck me up. And for a time, thinking about it and not knowing did fuck me up. But even if it happened, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. How do you figure? Because I can talk about it. Because I can see myself not being held down by it. Yeah, but what if it didn't happen? Then it doesn't matter. Although we do have to question them, why are you thinking about it in the first place if it didn't happen? Yeah, exactly. Why am I thinking about that if it didn't happen? Can you give me an answer on that? Because I love the idea that if it happened, I can just so easily, just casually, all right, it happened, good, thank you. It doesn't matter if it happened or not. Presume that it did, and just show some gratitude for it. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for having me molested. It's one of my best memories. Thank you for all of the bad things that ever happened to me. Well, let me rephrase that. Thank you for all of the experiences that would be classified as bad. Thank you so fucking much. How do I put this? I'm saying it reluctantly, but I want to love those experiences to the point that I want to relive them. You can relive them anytime you want in your mind. And the purpose for reliving them in your mind is to burn off the egoic and emotional attachment to the story that's attached to it, so that you can come to a point where you can look at those experiences from an objective perspective. And even go so far as to fit them into place with the bigger picture of your life, and to recognize how things led into it and what came from it. And even, and this is a really hard one, take responsibility for it. Because once we take responsibility for even our own victimhood, that's when you come through and go, whoa, okay, hold up. You're going to a really dark place now, because that does bring you to a dark place. But then, just like that, just like how I said, whoa, hey, come back. Don't get lost. You're not ready for that one yet. You're not ready to go down that one alone. Because that's where people get lost. And again, going back to Joseph, and even bringing this back to myself, is we had God to pull us up from that dark place. Because you have to go to the dark place. That's my experience, at least. I don't... Just because Torah doesn't necessarily show us Joseph going to that dark place, doesn't mean he did not go to that dark place. And that dark place being the frothing, salivating over the thoughts of what he was going to do to them. Those people who betrayed him. Because you have to go there. Part of the experience, especially with God, especially being a servant of God, is being able to feel as much of the emotional spectrum as possible, which is the point of Shiva, of the point of the Count of Omer, and exploring the emotional faculties the way that we are, because if you aren't willing to feel something, if you aren't willing to go into the dark tunnel, if you aren't willing to go into the abyss, then you don't deserve what's on the other side. Right? Disneyland is popping in my mind, right? Let's say you want to go to Disneyland, right? Because it looks like so much fun. Oh my God, I want to go to Disneyland. It's so cool. But you got to go through like a dark tunnel to get to Disneyland. I don't want to go in there. It's scary. All right, then you're not going to Disneyland. I don't know what to fucking tell you. That's just the way it works. If you don't want to go there, then you aren't allowed to see what's on the other side. That's just the plain and simple of it. I'm not gonna. Let's not whitewash it. Let's not try to like pretty it up. It's just if you are not willing to do this, then you cannot receive that. But I really, 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 really want to. I know you do. I want you to too. I want you to. But I'm being reminded of The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Have we all seen Empire Strikes Back? If not, you can Google this scene, you can YouTube it. You can find the scene on YouTube where Luke is being trained in the ways of the Force by Master Yoda, and he gets his first taste of the dark side. And Yoda tells him, you have to go into that cave, but you have to go on your own and you can't bring your weapons with you. And for the most part, Luke listened, but he brought his weapons with him. He wouldn't give up his weapons. So essentially what we're getting at is, and they don't show this in Star Wars, but in order to overcome the dark side, you have to let the dark side win. There's a really good video game. It's called Senua's Sacrifice. It's about a girl who goes on a vision quest. And I'm going to spoil it, but at the very end of the game, she has to confront the goddess of the underworld, Hela. And the final battle is just an endless stream of enemies that you have to fight. You just fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. What the game doesn't tell you is that the only way to win is to lose. And you actually have to stop fighting. You have to stop fighting and allow the bad guys to beat the shit out of you. And actually completely take away your entire health bar. It's probably one of the most counterintuitive boss fights that I've ever seen in a video game. But the logic behind it, from a spiritual perspective, because the game is very spiritually inclined, but from a spiritual perspective, that's the way it works. It's one of my least favorite parts of when I have to go through my own dark nights of the soul, we'll call it. Because it's not about beating the darkness, it's about allowing the darkness to win. Because, and this is something that Rabbi Zolman doesn't get into in Tanya. He actually says the opposite, that you must fight the darkness, that you have to fight it, you're at war with it. But that's not right. It's not right at all. King David even teaches us in Psalms 139. I don't remember the exact verse. But he says that from God's perspective, light and dark are the exact same thing. God doesn't see a difference between the two. We do. When you go to war, and I wish I could say this to Rabbi face to face, but when you go to war with the darkness, you're going to war with God. You think you're doing the right thing, but you're just a human. You're a dumb little monkey. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're going to war with the creator of the universe. You think you have the power to defeat him. Because the darkness serves God just as much as the light serves God. Now, the difference between the light and the dark, it goes like this. The light is proud of it. We work for God. God allowed the dark side to have its own reign. God allows the dark side to be sovereign. That's why if you ask a demon, you work for God? Excuse me? Nigga, I work for myself. I'm doing this for me. If God benefits from it, good. Because every demon, like one of my favorite scenes from Dante's Inferno is very early on. Right when Dante and Virgil cross through the eternal gate, Virgil says to Dante, no one's here on accident. Even the employees. The employees want to be here. See, the myth, the conspiracy theory is that hell was a punishment for the demons. No. That was their reward for standing up for themselves. That was their reward for being true to themselves, saying, I am not going to be your fucking slave. Okay, go ahead. Here, I'll even make you a kingdom. Do whatever you want with it. Now, if we read John Milton's Paradise Lost, right in the beginning, the story opens up with Satan opening his eyes after the fall. And he says it himself, we're going to make hell out of heaven and we're going to make heaven out of hell. Because my daddy who sits on the throne just gave us this entire kingdom to make into whatever the fuck we want to make it into. Within his laws, within his boundaries, of course. Because just like people have no idea what the fuck they're talking about when they talk about the book of Job, in the book of Job, we also find out that Satan's not actually a rebel, but Satan is a very devout servant of God who follows the commandments of God to a letter. Because when God told him what he was not allowed to do to Job, Satan didn't revolt. Satan did exactly what God said that he was allowed to do. If he was such a rebel and if he hated God so much, why didn't he revolt against him? Why didn't he revolt against you? Yeah? Because I know for a fact that after 37 years of rebelling against you, when I finally went back to you and said, give me a reason to believe in you, and I'm all yours, it was because I was at my wit's fucking end. So if Satan was that big of a rebel, he wouldn't have even been allowed to walk through the fucking palace gates, let alone receive a commandment. Don't touch him. Don't kill him. Do whatever the fuck else you want to do to him. Alrighty. Rebels don't say alrighty. They go, no, fuck you. I'm gonna do things my way. The point being that the darkness that we want to fight, that we want to see as our enemy, yeah, keep up with that. Keep up with that. See where it leads you. 2,000 years later, we're still waiting for Mashiach, yeah? I don't see that motherfucker anywhere. I see a lot of people going, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? I don't know. Go look in the mirror. Maybe you'll find him in there. That's where you'll find him. Where's Mashiach? Go look in the mirror. That's where you'll find him. That's what God literally God just told me. If you want to find Mashiach, go look in the mirror. Because once you look in the mirror, then you're going to see all those demons, that horde of demons that you've been fighting. Yeah. You're going to see them come running, charging right at you. But like I said, here's the key to it. Let them win. Let them win. Let them in and let them win. Be who they want you to be. See what happens. If you have faith in God, then you know that God will... Whoa! Oh, don't want to lose you there. You know what I mean? If God doesn't love you, if God doesn't give a shit what happens to you, then he will let them take over. And you will turn into your worst nightmare. Do you even know what your worst nightmare is? Do you even have an idea what that even looks like? Have you ever considered that the worst possible version of you is actually a joke to somebody else? Like to someone like me. So I can say this because you're not in front of my face. But if you notice like I'm doing something, I'm trying to trigger you. Like your hardest, your most devious, oh, you don't want to see that side of me. No. Why? Why don't I want to see it? Because I don't want to laugh? Of course I do. I would love to see it because I love a good laugh. Because I know that you're not as scary as you want to believe that you are. Nobody's scared of you. People are as scared of you as they are of me. And I can assure you that I am not as scared of you as I am of my own self. But although I am the person I am most afraid of, I fear God more than I fear me. Because he's the one telling me to poke at you. What? I'm being reminded of the rich man who went to Rabbi Jesus, to Yeshua Rabbeinu, and he said, Master, how do I enter the kingdom of heaven? Easy. Go sell all your shit, go sell your house, go sell everything you own, and then give all the money away. This is stupid advice. All right. See? I told you. Master, how can I enter the kingdom of heaven? Go look in the mirror and let the demons win. That's the only way. Don't fight them. Don't fight them. Because you can't beat them. They're immortal, just like the angels. The only entity stronger than an angel or a demon is God. So you have to let them win. On your own, with no help. You have to leave all your weapons aside and just let them whoop your ass until, like, you gotta let them jump you, basically. Have you ever been jumped? You know what I mean when I say jumped? I've never been jumped. I was when I was a kid. That's a fear of mine. A mob coming and beating the shit out of you. And there's nothing you can do about it but just sit there and take the beating. You need to let the demons tell you how big of a piece of shit you are, how big of a piece of garbage you are, how big of a whore, a slut, a man tramp, dishonest, a liar, lazy, dumb. Oh my God, are you so fucking dumb? Oh my God. Did you really think you were gonna watch this and get help? You fucking idiot. You're so stupid. Oh my God. You should go kill yourself. You seriously should. Because God hates you. Everyone hates you. Everyone hates you. You're just a dumb, stupid cow piece of shit that nobody wants. Your life is a waste. It's always been a waste. Why keep sucking up air that doesn't even belong to you? Jesus Christ, my Lord. Who were you just talking to? Well, I was talking to my own mirror. I was talking to myself. There's nobody here. Why do I feel like you're praising me right now? I hear you praising me. You did an amazing job. You have no idea how helpful that was. Oh, because I pulled back. Right? Okay, so you want me to explain what just happened? I just took my own medicine. I hate people. I don't like people. Looking down on people. I'm looking down on people, right? So that little demon inside of me, that Satan, my Satan, I don't got a demon, I got Satan. I don't know about nobody else. I got Satan and Lilith that live inside of me. The serpent seed. But, oh, fuck. What I did was I just let whatever was coming up come up. And even while I was speaking, I heard think of it like going into autopilot mode. Like going into autopilot mode. In the back of my head, I was watching what I was doing. And like, even when I said the thing, you should go kill yourself. Like, I heard myself go, whoa, stop. You're going too far now. But I didn't. Although that's around the point where God took my head out of the abyss and went, whoa, hey, come back to me. You did a great job. Thank you. You did a great job. If you sat through that, you did a great job. Because I know I touched something. My Lord wanted me to go all over the board just in case. Because you never know who might be watching, who might not be watching. So he wanted me just to hit as many trigger points as possible. That's not easy. I mean, it's not as hard as I make it look, but it's also not easy. Because that, you gotta keep in mind, the emotional range that I just had to go to get to that. Listen, that was real. That wasn't an acting job. That was allowing. There was faces I was seeing when I was saying that. Do you ever talk to yourself that way? I used to. I mean, do I still talk to myself that way? Sometimes, but it's so hard. It's hard to. Because of the fact that I already know the end result, so it's like, why even bother? You know what I mean? Like in the Talmud, I've heard, like, the Talmud teaches us that Rabbi Jesus, the nefesh of Rabbi Jesus, is spending eternity in hell in a pool of boiling shit and semen. And I thought about that. Like, I put thought into this. And I'm like, that's not a bad thing. That's actually something you should be we should be grateful that if he's doing that's what he's doing, because that's not a pun. Like, I've been to hell. I got a first-hand tour of hell with Dante, and hell's not a bad place. Going to hell is not a punishment. It's actually a reward. If you can handle it. For weak people, hell is a punishment. But think of it like an endurance challenge. Can you take this? Because what hell is forcing you to do, the physical pain, that's one thing. But the physical pain is your reward for not taking responsibility and not owning and not feeling the shame and guilt and cringe that comes, that's been buried down inside of you because of what you did or didn't do. Did and or didn't do, you know? It's meant to toughen you up. So when I think about what it's like to sit in a hot tub filled with boiling feces and semen, I think about what I would do if I was in that situation. Because again, bringing it back to Joseph, yeah, sitting in this boiling pool of feces and semen, that's the last place I want to be. But while I'm in here, I might as well take full advantage of it. So let's stick our head underneath and try to keep our mouth shut, most importantly, and see how long we can take it for. Because if I'm going to be here suffering, I might as well take advantage of it and see how it can toughen me up. And really think about what it is I did and or didn't do to get myself put in this position. I mean, I know I'm thinking about it logically, but I have the luxury of being in a position where I can think about it logically. Now let's just say I drop dead right now, and God deems it necessary that I have to go spend eternity sitting in a pool of boiling feces and semen. All right, well, what am I going to do about it? Obviously, I'm retaining some of my human memories, so let's see. What? You want me to sit in there and think I'm being punished? Okay, but how can I make it work for me? Because if I can spend 2,000 years learning how to enjoy sitting in a pool of boiling feces and semen, what can I do once my soul has been resurrected? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of shit can I take? Because that's gonna harden me up to a point where, if I think about it, when I think about the last hours of the life of Jesus. Oh no, we ain't doing this shit. Green spider. I have a phobia with insects. So if you ever want to defeat me, just throw insects on me. Like I'll freak the fuck out. That's my version. That's my version. That's my version of sitting in a pool of boiling feces and semen. I could take the semen and feces more than I could take a sitting in a boiling pot of insects. Just a writhing pot of worms and bugs and My ex-wife, she used to have to dispose of the insects in the house because I couldn't do it. I couldn't go near them. I don't know what the hell it is about them, but when insects come near, you know what it's a fight or flight thing. It's a fight or flight situation that I believe is actually empathic in nature, because I believe that the terror and cringe and just horror that consumes me whenever a large insect's near me, it's not me, it's them. As in, I'm feeling their fear because they see a fucking titan. Insects probably have and any kind of wildlife probably have the worst kind of PTSD that a human being could possibly imagine. Worse than what a human being can imagine, because everything is out to eat you. Everything wants to kill you. It's a primal fear that humans have been conditioned to ignore. So it's my belief that the cringing ick that I feel is actually what the insects are feeling. Even a wormy McSquirmy. Ugh. Well, I don't like them I don't like the idea of them touching my skin. There's certain things I like touching my skin. There's other things I don't like touching my skin. I'm not going to put my hand into a fucking fire because I know it's going to hurt. I don't need an insect crawling on me because I like, why? What is this payback? You want me to imagine? Oh my God. You want me to just think about myself in a pool of worms? Oh my God, with them all squirming, and then they get in my mouth. Oh, fuck. Ugh. Spiders crawling on me. Oh, and the big ones too with the really long legs. Oh, and those fucking crickets. Oh my God, those fucking crickets. Fuck. And chewing on them. Big chewy grubs. Ugh. Oh my God. Lord. Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I don't like thinking like this. I don't like the feeling that I'm feeling. But you want me to be vulnerable. Okay. Oh my God, 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 oh my God. Fuck it. Give me more. I love this. I love it. I love this feeling. Give me more of it. I'm gonna need a nap after this. So there was a book that I read. There's a book I listened to. There was a book I listened to a couple years back. It was called Existential Kink. Really good book. I'm gonna spoil it though. Technically, it's a book on witchcraft in a sense. It was written by witches. It's not necessarily a book on witchcraft, although I can recognize how if one is going to perform the practices that are in the book, that it would require one to be able to recognize a much larger world perspective. So, because there's a metaphysical aspect to it. And basically the main premise of the book is that you're responsible for everything in your life. It wants you to get into the habit of taking responsibility for everything, including what you don't want to take responsibility for. Everything. Bad childhood, being molested, being raped. Anytime that you were a victim, anything that you're a victim for, it's trying to encourage us to take responsibility for it. But then to take it even a step further, like anytime anxiety or depression or cringe or whatever the hell that was, I don't know what the name of that emotion is that comes with being in a pool of worms. Crickets. But when those bad feelings come up, to play reverse psychology with yourself, because the way she says it is that we all have an emotional masochist that lives at the core of our soul. And that masochist loves when we feel bad. We fuel the masochist inside of us every time that we fight our emotions. So what the practice that she proposes is, and just from personal experience, I take my medicine before I give it, is exactly what I just did. Did you notice how, like, it took a minute or two before I started saying, I love this? I love this. Give me more. Give me more. I want it. That's the point. Because once that masochist inside of you here's the message. I love this. And say it out loud. I love this. Give me more. Dial it up. Crank it the fuck up. I can take it. Ugh. Why do I do that? I don't know why. It's just like there's something going on in my head. What I think it is that new neural pathways are being like etched into my brain, and that's what makes me like kind of like short circuit a little bit. Because I'm going to places in my mind and my emotions that aren't normal, that aren't necessarily like, I don't know how to put it. I don't know what the right word is. I'm expanding on my perceptions and perspectives and emotional range. So in doing so, what we're doing, and that's the way that you're explaining it to me, is that it's actually like, when people say about how we forge new neural pathways, like that's what I'm seeing is like, just someone tattooing my brain. It's just like, ugh. But the nervous system. Right, we're redlining the nervous system. Which is having a physical effect on my body, on my internal systems. Like I'm dialing up my anxiety, my stress to a point where it's like, try to imagine taking the nerves in your fingers and then dipping them into hot boiling oil. Like, I don't want to go there. Is that, why is that, by the way? Why is it that I'm more skeeved out by worms and bugs than I am by being in a pool of boiling feces and semen? Try to imagine that's the equivalent? Alright. But I don't understand why. I don't understand. I mean, we can get to that another time. I just popped in my head to ask, because I'm just, why are you more comfortable with that, but not that? I don't know. So why do some people not like to eat chicken? You know, like some people, different love languages, different fear languages, different suffering languages, different punishment languages. But the point that I was trying to get to is the value of showing gratitude and desire for the suffering that we're going through at that time. because that sucked. I didn't like talking about it. I didn't like feeling it. I hope that if you're watching this, that you felt that I was feeling. But once I started to say how much I was enjoying it and to give me more and to dial that feeling up, which I didn't want to say, but that's the point. Breaking through an emotional mental block. My emotional block, my in my head, my mind, logically, no, I don't want that. So saying that I want it is a challenge. It's difficult. Like, I don't want to say that because God forbid I say I like it and I get more of it. But what's actually happening is that the inner Satan, who's getting off on the fact that we're suffering, who just enjoys it, he just loves it. Once he gets the picture, wait, what do you mean you like this? You're not supposed to like it. Why are you liking it? You want me to dial it up? Here. I'll dial it up. Why are you still liking it? I don't understand. Like, do you understand what I'm getting at? Once we start showing that part of ourselves that wants to suffer, that part of us that gets off on self-abuse, once we start to show that aspect of ourselves that we're actually enjoying it, you want me to not like this, but I'm going to like it because you don't want me to. We're no longer defying God. We're defying that part of us that's rebelling against us. That part of us that's rebelling against God, that part of us that's trying to make us hate God. Like, God, why would you make me feel that, you piece of shit? I fucking hate you. That's what he wants. Why are you making me do this right now? I feel like such a fucking idiot. I hate you. You are sick. Like, that's what that inner part of me wants. My inner Satan. My Yitzhahara. He wants me to hate God. Well, I mean, not necessarily, though. Not necessarily. I don't want to talk shit on him. Because I don't hate Satan. I love Satan. I love Satan like I love myself. I love my Satan like I love myself. Because my Satan is myself. And just like Rabbi Jesus taught, love your enemy like you love yourself. Love the parts about yourself that you hate the most like you love the parts about yourself that you love the most. What if you don't love any parts about yourself? Well, start learning how to. You know, a teacher of mine once said, love yourself the way that you want other people to love you. Touch yourself intimately, the way that you want to be touched intimately. Speak to yourself the way that you want other people to speak to you. Be the person of your dreams. Be that person that you want someone else to be for you, so that you actually know what it is that you want. Because once you know what you want, you find out that it was always within you in the first place. You don't need any of this other shit that's on the outside. Everything else that's outside of yourself is a bonus. But you can't have the bonus unless you play the game by the rules. The rabbis, was it Rabbi Akiva who said, love your fellow like you love yourself is the primary commandment in the entire Torah. Everything else is just commentary. But we can condense that down. That doesn't mean do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's not what that means. It's not. That's wrong. Do unto others as you would do to yourself. Got a little excited there. Love your enemy like you love yourself. Because the best kind of revenge is forgiveness. I forgive you. I forgive myself. How about that? I forgive myself for doing. Remember, we're going to start mixing in a bunch of different concepts right now. We're going to go to the advanced level. So, I love my enemy. I forgive myself for putting the gun to the head of my enemy so that they would do to me what they did to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for giving you a reason. That's my fault. That's my bad. Technically, that's God's bad because God's in full control of my life. I don't have any control over my life, but that's my business. You don't have to worry about that. You, my enemy, I'm sorry. I fucked up. I fucked up. That's what that is. Loving your enemy doesn't mean killing them. Loving your enemy means taking responsibility for your enemy. Even when you don't have to. Especially when you don't have to. Because that's what separates the Jew from everybody else. That's why God gave us his Torah, because he can trust us to do the shit that nobody else is willing or capable of doing. It's not the job of the Jew to defeat the darkness. No. It's our job to be the light and the dark for the nations, to show them that we don't have to live a polarized life where you have to be this or you have to be that. No. And every good and educated Jew, and I know every Jew in the world will back me up on this, is that you need to embrace your darkness just like you embrace your light. Because, again, without God, without Hashem guiding us, it's impossible. No human can do what I just did without God. It's impossible. It's impossible to allow yourself to go into the darkness and find your way out, because we are not born nocturnal. God trains us to be nocturnal. You feel? This I feel is like the biggest gatekeeping secret of all Judaism, is that we are obligated by God to straddle both the light and the dark, to make peace with our own darkness, to make love to our darkness. Literally, to make love to it. Because we are creatures of both light and darkness. Like that part of me that came out when I was getting abusive, followed by when I was getting abused. I love that part of me. I fucking love that part of me. That's the part of me that used to be married. That's the part of me that my ex-wife knows. My ex-wife doesn't know this side of me, but she definitely knows that side of me. Not that I ever said those things, those particular things to her, but I know I've thought them. And sometimes thinking of them is just as good as saying them. But, again, back then, I didn't have any light inside of me. There's a really good Gnostic book. It's called Liber Lilith, and it gives the origin story of Lilith. It gives the origin story of Lilith and the Satan. He came first. She came after. She it's like a dark Adam and Eve story. Where Lilith is the product. She grew out of Samael, the Satan. Yaldabaoth. And what it goes on to say, what it goes on to teach, is that he saw within her the same wound that he saw within himself. He was under the impression that he had no light within him. His spark was so dim, it was so tiny. It was so tiny. Samael's Pharaoh consciousness. He was so blind to God that he thought that he was the creator. He thought he was the architect of all creation. But he didn't have any right. He didn't know any better. That's the thing. So because he didn't know God, he didn't know about the teeny tiny, itsy bitsy, little tiny baby spark that was at the very core of his soul. So when we learned that he saw the same wounding in Lilith that he saw in himself, what we're saying, what's being said is that that same spark that was in him was in her. And that spark wasn't there because of any particular religion or ideology, but it was there from God. It was his inheritance. It was his divine inheritance. And you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, how do I word that? Going back to the Easter egg hunt analogy, the scavenger hunt. Samael had to be born without any kind of knowledge of God because he would be the ultimate Baal Tshuva, and that no one would be able to convince Samael that God exists until he found him on his own. And I can relate to that. I can see that. That's probably why I relate to the Satan. To the Satan and Lilith as much as I do. Because I know that feeling. It's like that void, that emptiness that comes from knowing that you're the only fucking person like you. Because if I was wrong, then why does the world reflect that back at me? You know what I mean? Alright, yeah, this is almost done. Well, what do you want to title this? We'll talk, alright. The Chesed of Netzach. The way of the dark side. The way of the darkness. I like that. The dark path. King Solomon's coming to my mind. And the tale of the second chamber. Well, King Solomon's temple had two chambers to it. There was the Holy of Holies, but then there was a hidden chamber that was buried underneath the temple itself, behind a whole slew of mazes and traps. And in order to find it, it's only found through failure. All of the failures that we've accumulated over the course of our life, those hold the passcodes. Those hold the key codes on where and how to find it. But you have to be able to recognize that every failure was a success. It's like Edison. He failed 1,000 times before he invented a functioning light bulb. And the same is true for us. Like, all of our biggest life failures were our greatest life successes from another perspective. From the perspective of our future self, who has achieved everything and anything that we have put our minds to, with the help of God, of course. See, and that's another service that God provides to those who are initiated into his way, is that as an omnipotent, omnipresent entity, He exists in the past, the present, and the future. So he knows that our future self succeeded because he's there with our future self. So when God speaks to you through the voice of your future self, you can trust that when your future self tells you this was that quote worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the best thing that ever happened to you, you can actually trust it. And I believe, and Lord, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the Quran talks about trust God and the messenger, what's up, man? When the Quran says to trust God and to trust the messenger is our future self that God's speaking to us through. So, I had to be about like 7 or 8. When I was about 7 or 8, that's when I first met Future Derek. Future Derek was a voice in my head who told me that he comes from a future where all of my wildest dreams have come true, and that he learned how to telepathically communicate with his past self, me. And his job was to guide me down the right path to ensure that I grew up to be him. So when I talk about those wild fantasies of my childhood, that's one of them. Is Future Derek real? But the thing is, Future Derek would always pop up at the right time, at the exact moment that I needed the advice, the reassurance, the confidence boost that I needed to keep on going. Now, Future Derek never told me about God. My assumptions about God were made on my own, based on my own personal experiences. But it wasn't until I was 40. It was a few months after my it was only a couple months after my 40th birthday, or a couple months after my 40th birthday, where I found out that I am Future Derek. Because I learned how to do inner child work, the meditative technique, inner child work, where you go back in your mind and you relive your traumatic childhood experiences, and you hug your inner child and you let them know that you're there for them. I didn't learn about that until I was 40. And once I learned about it, I recognized, holy shit, this is what Future Derek was doing. So I've been on both sides of the fence in that in that scenario, where I have been the physical child who had my future self come back and try to comfort me in my times of need. But then also, once I learned how to use that technique for myself, grown-up me, Future Derek, because from the perspective of my inner child, I am Future Derek. From the perspective of my own inner self, from the perspective of me 24 hours ago, me right now, I am Future Derek. So it's like, well, there's that saying, like, if you knew then what you knew now, what advice would you give to your younger self? Keep doing exactly what you're doing, because you're doing everything perfectly. Don't change a fucking thing. Or better yet, don't waste your time trying to think that you can do something different, because you don't have any control over the future. The future, tomorrow, how do I put it? What's the name of that one book? So I have a bunch of journals, and I title them all. But there's one that I love the name of. It's Yesterday. Yesterday was written tomorrow. It's supposed to kind of be a little bit of a mind scrambler. Intentionally. Because how the fuck could yesterday be written tomorrow? Well, I don't know. Ask God. Because again, going back to my soul brother, to my soul father, Joseph, when we study Torah and we look at the story of Joseph, we can recognize that his tomorrow or his yesterday was written in the future. His past was written before his future happened. It's called retrocausality. It's called retrocausality. It's try to imagine that the intention, function of the effect is the metaphysical catalyst for the cause that brings the effect into manifestation. The primary agent of motion, of change, and evolution is that which has not happened yet. The experiences of Joseph's life, all of the negative experiences of Joseph's life, were preparing him for when he was in a position of power, so that he would be able to humble himself enough to not abuse the power that was bestowed upon him. There's a lot to learn from Joseph that I think has left to be uncovered. And opinions aside, we know that Joseph wanted his brothers, he wanted to be brought out of Egypt, his bones brought out of Egypt and brought back to Israel. But the bigger question, I think, would be, God, why was it so important that Joseph, of all the brothers, be the one who had his body and his bones brought out of Egypt and brought back home? Why was that so essential? And why him? In the Samaritan school of thought, which is a little bit different from the Jewish school of thought. See, the Samaritans believe that Mashiach will be a descendant of Joseph, where the Jews say that Mashiach will be a descendant of Joseph, or David. They're both right. They're both right. He's a descendant of both, which is where it gets a little challenging. It's like, how? I don't know. To answer that question, we'd have to really dig into Torah law, especially Torah inheritance laws, which are not just physical inheritances, but spiritual inheritances as well, genetic, ancestral inheritances. So, like, for instance, the only time that an Israelite has any kind of inheritance from their mother, technically, according to Torah, is when her father dies without having any other sons. Otherwise, for the most part, at least according to Torah, nothing ever gets passed down from the mother. And I know that's not necessarily entirely true. There's more to it than that. We learn that in the Quran, that the mother does have an inheritance, but I think that how do I put this? Because this is going to cut out any minute. Well, got 8%, so we got 3% left before it runs out. So the way I see it is that Mashiach is a descendant of David on his father's side and a descendant of Joseph on his mother's side. Because the line of Joseph is more important. Not more important, but it's different. In the sense that, from a genetic perspective. Because the children of Joseph all have Egyptian mothers, just like Ishmael had an Egyptian mother. So her ancestral inheritance comes from Isis, essentially. Every Egyptian woman is a daughter of Isis. Which has its own spiritual benefits to it. Spiritual benefits and detriments to it. And considering that one's tribe is determined from the father, and it's determined that David will rule, then it would have to be that dad is a descendant of David and mom is a descendant of Isis, essentially. Joseph and Isis. Which is where I get into the thing with Jesus. Like, people say, well, Jesus is the king of the Jews, he's the king of Israel. He's not, though. He's not. And these aren't my rules. It's in the Bible. Because God even said, you even said to Ezekiel, that it's got to be when the stick from the family tree of Joseph and the stick from the family tree of Judah are combined through Ephraim and David. That's the king. That's King Mashiach. So realistically, the Samaritans and the Jews, they're both right at the same exact time. But one thinks that they're more right than the other, which is where they're wrong. So they're both right and wrong at the same time. It's kind of like something we learned from Aristotle in chapter 21 of the second book of Prior Analytics, where he says that knowing the general concept of a thing doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be right about your perspective, because those who only understand the generalized form of something don't necessarily understand the particulars of that thing, of that generalized thing. Because the general concept is composed of particular details. And the example he gives is a man who perceives evil, not realizing that what he's looking at is good. Because he's ignorant to that particular form of good, he sees it as evil. He's not 100% wrong, but he's also not right. Not 100% right. He's partially right, and he's partially wrong. Until he's able to accept the fact that he doesn't know everything, until he can accept that he doesn't know everything, and I've been here. I mean, I'm there right now. I know there's things that I'm talking right now, like I know everything, but I don't know shit. I'm just going with what God's taught me. Like there's a fellow Jew who I watched on YouTube. Abu something, I forget his name, but we were talking the other day. Well, we were kind of messaging back and forth, and he was saying that every master, every Torah master had a master. But my response to him was, yeah, but who's the supreme grand master of the masters? It's Hashem. And all of the real masters, Joseph, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Rabbi Jesus, their master was the supreme grand master. They learned from God directly. Because even the self-proclaimed masters and scholars and sages, well, they didn't call themselves sages. We call them sages now. No, but trust me, they were patting themselves on the back. They patted each other on the back so that they didn't have to so they didn't have to pat themselves on the back. Even though I'm sure that when we apply the philosophy of the observer effect, when there was nobody around, they were going like this. Oh yeah. My school of Jew is going to be the top school of Jew. Which I do. I pat myself on the back all the time, but God tells me to. God tells me to pat myself on the back for all of the things that nobody else is going to pat me on the back for. There's a big difference. I don't pat myself on the back for the things that other people pat me on the back for, because nobody pats me on the